You are listening to the Navigating Adult ADHD podcast, where it's all about education, support, and coaching for adults with ADHD. I'm your host, Xena, a late diagnosed ADHDer, here to help you unpack the challenges, frustrations, and the positive side of living with ADHD. With my no BS approach, I'll help you to better understand your unique ADHD brain and how you can work with it to feel better, increase your self-confidence, improve your relationships, and ultimately achieve your goals. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Navigating Adult ADHD podcast, where today we've got a treat. I asked one of my clients, who has since become a friend, I invited her on to share her experience of this whole ADHD coaching process, right from the beginning, where she was listening to the podcast, booked in for a consultation, and then what did she gain through coaching? What did that look like? How has she changed, or how has that helped her through her life? So Julia comes on and she shares all of that, as well as what it was like to get diagnosed. She was actually, went through the official diagnosis process whilst we were working together. She talks about that. She talks about being misdiagnosed earlier in life, and just shares so many relatable stories for those of us who have been diagnosed with ADHD late in life. She's got an incredible story, talks about, what self-medicating looked like, what dopamine seeking looked like, all the things. And I am just so thrilled to be able to share this incredible, very relatable conversation with you all. All right, my friends, enjoy. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Navigating Adult ADHD. We're off to a great start because there have been snorts already. Today, we are joined by my friend and client, Julia, who is going to share with us her experience of ADHD coaching, getting diagnosed later in life, and just so many things. I've got like a massive list of questions. So thank you for coming on the podcast. I'm so happy that you are here with us.
Yeah, hi. It's still, but when you were just doing that intro and that, I'm just like, oh my God, I'm like, oh my God, fuck, I can't believe I'm doing this, because this is something I never would do. And already I've let out an F-bomb, and I'm like, I'm going to try and not swear too much. But that's me, like, talking relaxed is like, this is a big deal, I think, to even do this. Is something I never thought I could do.
Yeah.
So it's neat to be here, and you've been on with me through the whole start to finish of everything.
Yeah, and the F-bombs are welcome. Like, I swear a lot. As you know,
Yeah.
I swear a lot, so bring it on.
Yeah.
How about we start out with you just telling our listeners a little bit about who you are, just so we've got some background before we dive in. You can share anything.
Anything.
Cool.
All right. So what am I? I'm 38 this year. I teach yoga and Pilates. I have a daughter who's nearly 5 in September. My husband, I love my animals. I love festivals, dancing, music, travel. I don't know. I love new adventures and things. That's always been a part of me. But I'm pretty hardworking. I do cleaning, and I've got a little business on the side. But so keep busy.
Lots of things. I love it. And tell us a little bit about your ADHD journey.
Well, I didn't really know much about ADHD. I was diagnosed bipolar type 2 when I was probably in my 20s, and it never really I was sort of at the point where I was just like, okay, if this is what I am, cool, just fix me now, because I was just all over the shop and just very, very crazy times. And it never felt right. None of the meds ever really worked that well for me. I always just felt a bit like I've just struggled my whole life, basically, it feels like. And anyway, so my husband actually got me a book for Mother's Day last year, and it's Haley Holt's book. It's on my shelf now. I'm looking at it, called Second Chances. And I was like, oh, nice one. Cool. Cheers, babe. And
yeah, what are you trying to say?
And then I started reading it, and she told her story. And of course, I haven't finished the book yet. I need to go back. But she started talking about ADHD, and I was like, gosh, this sounds like me. I could relate so much to it. And then it was random. You popped up on the TV one night, and you can't even remember this. I remember we talked about it. And it was like a segment of talking about ADHD. And you were there, and then my husband was there, and he was like, God, it sounds exactly like you. So I went and did the little quiz, the ADHD quiz, and nailed it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, 10
then
out of
I,
10.
and then I started listening to your podcast on planes, and I started to recognize so much of myself there and everything you said. And I was like, this is crazy. I think I need to explore this more. So then I got in touch with you. And yeah, here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've only got diagnosed recently, 2 months ago properly, I think 2 or 3 months, and
Yeah.
medication that, and yeah.
Yeah. Oh my
But it's
gosh,
been a
got so
ride.
many questions. Yeah. First of all, I just have to point out, I love how like you were reading a book and it talked about ADHD, right? But you didn't finish
Yeah,
the book. That is so
no,
us. Like it's just, I
I'm gonna
love
go
to
back and do
buy
it though.
books,
Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah,
finishing them is a different story.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love
Mm.
it. Tell me, had you worked with a coach? Like you talked about having bipolar. Well, first of
Mm.
all, do you think that was a misdiagnosis?
Oh, it absolutely was. So that was
Yeah.
the other enlightening thing, I guess, is
Yeah.
going along to when I had actually 2 assessments. The first person I went to, and I guess we might talk about this a bit later when it comes back to, trusting your intuition, but I had a terrible experience when I first went along to get diagnosed recently. And
Mm.
it felt all off to me. And I think it was a blessing that I've had so much of a history of mental health that I was like, this psychiatrist doesn't feel right. There
Yeah.
were comments that were made directed towards my mother, flirty, and I was like, this is off. And
Mm.
anyway, sent me away with a script for a big dose of Ritalin, which is kind of unheard of, and it all felt wrong. And he told me it's just anxiety, it's just depression, and this and that, and basically, but then sent me away with a script. So that was it all felt wrong. And anyway, I ended up
Mm.
looking into it, and yeah, it wasn't good. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. We won't go down that rabbit hole because I feel like now I'm doing an ADHD thing, going on a tangent, aren't I? Yeah. So let's bring it back.
But we're going to do it anyway. You know, we're going to do it.
Oh
So
God,
I'm
so
here
hard.
for
I'm
it.
like, focus. Come on, Dexys, hit. And then I was like, this is wrong, and found out some stuff, and it was like, yes, this guy's a bit dodgy. And I've had
Yeah.
so many things in my life like this pop up where I've like haven't trusted that intuition, and I've been right. And
Yeah.
anyway, I went along and saw the place I went recently, the lady, and it was the first time I felt like someone fucking got me, like understood me. And
Yeah.
she looked at me and she was like, have you ever not slept for 3 days in a row without drugs in your system or anything like that? And I said, no, never. Like I'd have a night of that. She's like, that is one of the criteria you have to be bipolar. She's like, you're not bipolar.
Wow. Just to
And
hear
even that
somebody
moment,
say that
like I'm
you're
shaking
not
telling this because this gives me
bipolar.
like
Oh.
goosebumps. It's like my whole, like since my 20s, I thought
Oh.
I'm bipolar and I'm not. I mean, I've seen
Yeah.
so many different people, psychiatrists and people over the years. So that's what I mean is like, and this is a thing I've learned recently now is that so many women are misdiagnosed with anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
depression, bipolar, because the bipolar symptoms can look very similar to the dopamine chasing seeking behaviors.
Mm,
So
mm.
it all
Yeah.
makes
And the
sense now. It was like a
emotional
light switch
dysregulation.
moment. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah.
amazing. I forgot what the question was now.
Oh, I don't even know.
Uh,
I, but I think what you're sharing is so helpful because there are so many of us out there, right? So
mm,
many women who have been misdiagnosed and have felt like you felt, which is like, this doesn't feel like it. This doesn't feel right.
mm,
Like there's something missing.
yeah.
And for you to put words around that and share your experience, I think is so validating. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was. It was a real sort of crazy moment, sort of being
Mm,
like, wow, it was, yeah, it was very much mixed emotions that leaving that
yeah.
office that day. Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm curious in terms of coaching, like knowing that you had been misdiagnosed with
Mm,
bipolar early on, had you done any coaching or any therapy or counseling or psychology?
yeah.
Like, had you done
Oh God, I've done
anything?
it all.
Oh,
And yeah,
tell
like
us.
I'd hate to think the amount my parents spent sort of trying to help me out with that stuff. But this by far, I've said it to so many people who have asked me about it, was like the best thing I've done for myself, invested. And I often was that person, I was like, oh, I feel bad spending this money on myself for this sort of thing. But I'm like, it is literally making you better, function better, this and that. I went to psychologists over the years and different people,
Mhm.
but I guess when it's not someone who recognizes ADHD or knows it in and out, they're not even looking for it. It wasn't even on
Mm,
the cards, but coaching has been so different to any psychology appointments, any therapy I've ever done. Like it's actually
yeah.
made me, I think the big thing when I think about it, what it's done, it sort of made me get to really know who I am. Like I've always been self-aware, but actually accepting who I am and being like, this is okay, and this is the sort of brain you have now. How do you use it?
Yeah.
And that's been, I think, the most powerful thing is learning how to work your brain. But also, get the confidence. I think it's given me so much confidence to kind of like, we talked about in our sessions, like backing yourself and, being okay that you're too much and those
like
things.
Embracing those things.
I'd really suppressed myself. I'd realized now, like I'm especially now saying the meds has been just the final step. I think the coaching to me has been the most valuable thing I could have done. And even Johnny, my husband, said that, like he's noticed me change and achieve things I wouldn't normally do. I've started like putting myself out there. I never would do this, for example, or signing up for things I'd never do because, what will people think? And, that's a bit out there, or that's a bit much. And I tried to sort of suppress myself of who I am for so long to try and fit in. Yeah. And now I'm just accepting I don't fit in and I'm okay with that. I like it. Yeah. There's more of me out there. Hi.
Yeah, exactly. Fitting in sounds so boring. Bugger that.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Do you remember, and I know this is going back a while, but do you remember the consultation that we had? Like,
yeah, I do actually.
Yeah. What was that like?
Oh God, I'm getting nervous now. I'm tying my hair up because it's like that first consultation. I can't get my words out now. Was I was on a cleaning job actually, and
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah. And those were like I think we'll probably talk about this later, but that was like my self-medicating days. So I think I was actually a little bit stoned on that first one.
I don't remember that part.
Yeah, but I would talk fine. But I remember then afterwards, and I looked back actually before in the emails that I sent you because I was trying to see like I wanted to see when was it we had our first session and it was in January. Yeah. And I was trying to get the timeline because we're always funding this time. I'm like, when was it? Da, da, da. And I went back and it was November. And I was on a job and I still remember it was a Thursday and it all came back to me. And I remember you going questions. I'm like, it's pretty good. I'm happy. Da, 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 da. And we did exactly what we did. And I didn't even notice I was doing it. I masked everything. I was like, life's okay. I feel busy. I get overwhelmed, but it's other people are busier than I am. And I'm, it's fine. And I cope. And then afterwards, I've actually got this email I sent you and it's like,
I remember this email.
Yeah. Do you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I do. Yeah.
And I emailed you that night and I'm like, she's probably going to think I'm strange sending this because that's what we do. And I thought, no, I'm just going to share it because I think it's important to be open and honest. And I was like, I've actually thought about all what we talked about. And I think I wasn't completely like honest or not honest, but I was just kind of like trying to be positive or trying to, and you came back to me and you were like, this is exactly what we do. And I was like,
yeah, this is us masking our ADHD.
It was a weird moment. And I was kind of like, should I really, I felt what I was doing.
Yeah.
So, but that was that. And we started in January.
Yeah, I remember that. And to give people an idea, like I think one of the questions I would have asked you is how happy are you on a scale of 1 to 10? And I asked you that kind of question about different areas of your life, And I remember you rating them really high and I was like, sounds like life's going great. Like, and then I asked you at the end, so, what are you here for? Like, what is it you want to change or achieve through coaching? And I remember you sending me that email within a couple of days being like, I think I might have overestimated some of those numbers. I've been reflecting on what you said. And that is one of the things we do is like, we justify, no, like I've got nothing to complain about. Like, like there's people out there who've got it so much worse than me. Like I'm fine. Like I can figure it out. Like it's okay. And
really, I'm just like a hot mess tumbleweed, just like rolling through life, trying to hold on and just, people who look at you think, you're all good and this and that. Oh, you're doing well. You're doing this. It's like inside, it's messy.
That's
but hey, I've just found it.
Inside.
Should I read it? It's realized after speaking and reflecting on the questions and looking at the areas of my life that I'm actually quite burnt out and I could be doing a lot better / consistent. Like how I said, I'm really happy, but right now I'm feeling overwhelmed, frustrated at myself. This doesn't make me feel happy, lol. But I know it will pass and my life isn't bad. I think I look at an overall picture as a way to cope, kind of like lowering my expectations to see things more positively. But when I look at my day-to-day, I'm struggling. Wanted to write this down to explore another time. Thanks. We'll be in touch.
Wow. Go you
Yeah,
for
and then you
finding
came back
that.
to me, and yeah, and you were sweet. You came back to me, but it was yeah, it's funny. I pulled that up quite quickly. It was good. Well done, mate. Mm, so yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I do remember you sending that email. I'm
Mm,
curious though, like for us, like if that's where you were before coaching,
mm,
like what do you think has changed or what have you gained like
mm.
now? Like what's different now?
So what? Yeah, what's different? I think for me through coaching, probably the most valuable work we did was learning your values. I think was a
Mm-hmm.
biggie
Mm-hmm.
because that there, I think for so long I was almost like fighting against my values and trying not to be who I am to fit in. And it's
Yeah.
almost like when we did that values work and we went through it, and I found all my ones like I'm empathetic, I'm authentic,
Mm.
hate that word, but so obvious, but all the things that I am, and I'm an open book, and I love sharing my
Yeah.
experiences, good and bad, because I believe they help people and all of that. And I remember saying to you, like, I've been through a lot of stuff, as in like I had breast implants out and I had breast implant illness. And I
Mm-mm.
really wanted to share that stuff because I know so many people who I didn't know about that because I had a chance conversation with someone one day. Otherwise, I'd still probably have them in and not know what's wrong with me. And
Yeah.
things like that, where it's that sharing of your personal experience, and that I've always been told, too much, tone it down, or this or that, or maybe don't say that when they're around. And so I'd kind of fought that for so long.
Yeah.
And now, and I remember one day doing the post finally, and I was like, "You're like, just do it. This is, And it was that realizing I had, what do you call it? I've lost, what's it called? Rejection.
RSD.
Yeah,
RSD. Yeah, yeah.
realizing I
Rejection
had that.
sensitive.
You picked up on
Yeah.
that, and I had no
Yeah.
idea what that was. And as
Yeah.
soon as I learned about that, and then saw how much in my life, in my day to day, I was doing that, and how much that was stopping me from progressing with my business next steps,
Yeah.
from how I am with people at social situations and everything, and how it's taught me almost how to function better and protect myself, like boundaries,
Yeah.
learning the people pleasing and the boundaries were huge for
Mm.
me. And boundaries, I think, as well, like I still want to be true and authentic to myself, as in with my values, sharing and this and that, whatever. But
Mm.
now it's almost like if I know that person almost is not on my level,
Mm.
I save that for people who who I want to share that with now. For me,
Yeah.
it's like a special thing.
Yeah. I have seen for you, like I've seen you develop so much kind of self-acceptance, I would
Mm,
say,
yeah.
and like appreciation, even self like appreciation for who you are, right? As
Mm,
well as like understanding your values and what's important to you and why certain things would like rub you the wrong way or feel like not
yeah.
feel right in certain situations. I've seen
Yeah.
so
Well, I think
much
it's
of that.
the cheese grater effect was a
Yeah.
biggie for me. I think I
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
wanted to, this was something I did think was important, was
Mm.
and it was the values work of like knowing that when it's sort of, am I overthinking this, or what is the situation? You gave that tool, this S or C, whatever it is, TFAR model.
Yep,
And
yep.
that once you go through that, and I remember asking you this question at the end, and it was like, okay, so if you're feeling this, what's the situation? You go through it.
Mm.
And it was a situation, in a social setting where I would leave feeling like what you call now is the cheese grater effect. And I love that. And it was about, once you've gone through that model and it's like, okay, you get to the bottom of it and it's like, what else could it mean? Or what am I making it mean? And it's like,
Mm.
if you've gone to that bottom of it and you're like, okay, maybe I have seen this wrong or this or that, where's my evidence, da, da, da. But if you get to the bottom of it, I said to you, what if you're still feeling the same? Like, and you were like, that's when it's back to you, it's against your values. And I was
Yeah.
like, that was like a penny drop moment where it was just like all
Wow.
those things I've been feeling, like certain people and this and that. It's like, I get it now, what it is for me. And I know
Yeah.
now how to manage that. I can still hang out with them in that, but
Yeah.
I'm different how I show up. And
Yeah.
it's that almost protects me as well.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
my full version, that's for my special people.
Yeah.
you
Yeah. The
know?
ones who align with my values, right? And
Yeah.
share
And aren't
similar
going to judge
values.
me
And
and aren't going
yeah.
to say I'm too much
Yeah.
in that. And
Yeah.
yeah, so it's almost changed. Like you can socialize better because I think how you go into situations, you're just so much more confident of who you are and what you give and what you
Yeah.
protect.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
you're still being true to yourself, as in I'm authentic, I'm this, but you're
Yeah.
just you'll be just protecting yourself a bit.
Yeah,
If that
definitely.
makes sense. I don't
It
know.
makes a lot of sense. I wanted to so that
Mm,
people know, I'm not sure if I've talked about values much on here, but
mm.
I do think we need an entire episode just on values.
Oh, absolutely.
But
Yeah.
I do want to kind of
And
highlight
dopamine.
when we talk about the cheese grater effect, it's
Mm,
when something is out of alignment with your values, then I refer to it as
mm.
like, you've got a cheese grater and you're holding it on your skin and like trying to grate yourself. It feels horrible. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like one example I often use is like if you are with your friend Stacy and Stacy says, "Hey, I really hope that Kelly doesn't come to our weekend away,"
Mm,
and
mm.
then you see Stacy talking to Kelly at the weekend away, and
Being
they're
like,
like,
I'm
"Oh,
so
buddy,
stoked you're
buddy, and
coming.
yeah, I'm so happy you're
Yeah.
here," and it's like, hang on a
Ah,
minute.
yeah.
That's not what you said to me in private. This
I
doesn't feel
know.
good. Like, you're
Like,
not, that's not
warning,
what you've
warning.
said. Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
cheese grater feeling like,
Mm-hmm.
hang on. And that can happen when we value integrity, for example, so much. And we're like,
Mm.
no, like if you're going to say one thing and do another, that's the cheese grater. Like, I don't like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact for me is like I've, like with having difficult friend situations or things like that, I will always end up talking to that person straight up
Mm,
because I'm like, that is where beautiful relationships are based on trust, respect, honesty,
yeah.
um, come in. And, sometimes I would talk to my friends to get advice, like, hey, I'm feeling this or this, but it's never in a way of like, I don't know, it's different. Yeah, it's like you're sort
Yeah.
of testing, am I seeing this right?
Yeah.
And what am I, and this is what I'm feeling. But then I'd always have that conversation with them. And sometimes it doesn't go well. I'm like, oh, well,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just want to be straight up and I want to be real. Like, this is what I'm noticing and I
Yeah.
can't pretend. Mm,
And I see for you, you've really developed like really strong self-trust. Like you
mm,
trust yourself, you have your own back.
mm.
And another thing that really stands out from what I see in you is your ability to trust your intuition.
Oh, yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
tell us a bit about that? Because that like that's
God, what,
massive.
what do you want? There's so many
Well,
like terrible examples, but also like
but
it's, yeah, what,
yeah, I think even like that is one of the things I just remember you saying, like, I know to trust my gut now. Like, you've actually told me that on
mm,
so many occasions.
oh,
Like,
yeah.
even at the beginning when you were sharing how you went to that very first psychiatrist and
Oh,
that
yeah.
guy, like,
Mm.
we went on to find out like there was some bad media about him. Like, he
Yeah,
had
he
been,
shouldn't be
he should
basically a
not be
psychiatrist.
practicing.
No,
Yeah, at all.
yeah, and it was unreal. Like, and
Yeah.
yeah, so
But
things like that, we are very, intuitive. We feel everything, we see everything,
yeah.
body language, this and that, and it almost does your head in sometimes when you don't know you've got ADHD. And I think that's what it is like learning you've got ADHD now, and
Yeah.
knowing that you do have that. It's like when you are
Hmm.
then in these situations and feeling all the feels and noticing everything, it's like, yes, I know what this is and I know I'm intuitive and that, but sometimes it does your head in. But because it's just you see too much and
Hmm. It can be
often,
overwhelming,
oh,
right?
and often you end up, thinking because, oh, am I looking at this wrong? Am I,
Yeah. Yeah.
this and that? And so you end up questioning yourself. But so many times I look back where my intuition has just been telling me you are right in what you're thinking.
Hmm.
Don't go there. This is bad. This business decision this man is offering you, no, he actually just wants to get a bit of you. Um, for example, like
Mm-hmm.
awful situations that
Mm,
I have gone to and thinking like, no, I feel like this is happening. I feel this person is looking at me this way or thinks this of me, but no, I want to prove that I am smart and this and that. And maybe it is a chance. Maybe I'm just looking like all the thoughts. Maybe like, why
mm,
should I think he's attracted to me? That's a bit full of myself. Why would I think that? And go along, and then we've been right all along.
yeah.
Things
And
like
I
that.
think, yeah, there are so many things like that. I remember you sharing, and I think
Yeah.
society has really tried to, you know, put us in a box. And I guess
Mm,
when neurotypical people can't sense and see and feel what we can,
mm,
and we have so many of them around us, we start to go, well, if they can't tell that, if they can't see that, if they don't observe that, then maybe I'm wrong. Like maybe I shouldn't
mm.
trust this. So I love that
Absolutely.
you have really leaned into that. Like
Yeah,
you
I think
got
it was
so good at
always
trusting
there.
your intuition.
Even as a
Yeah.
kid, I remember I was so I could see when people like if my mum had a friend round, I could see if that friend actually didn't like my mum, you
Mm,
know? And so
mm,
and things like that. There were so many things like I have memories of kids now. And that's the thing now that it's coming back to me a lot of that stuff.
wow.
Situations that I've been in where I'm like, wow, I saw that coming,
Yeah.
you know? I saw
Yeah.
that.
Isn't
I
that
knew it.
cool? It's like we've got
Mm,
a built-in lie detector test, like
yeah.
into ourselves. Like we've
Oh,
got it built in.
absolute
Like it's
bullshit
we,
radar. I can
yeah,
feel when people are full of shit.
right.
I'm like, you are
Yeah.
lying. Yeah.
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 And we
And
don't
I had a,
necessarily, we can't always explain it in words, but it's just like we just know. We just know.
yeah. Yeah. I think that
Mm.
they like what a big intuition moment for me where that sort of led me to coaching as well, when I had this terrible situation with yeah, someone, and they were a very close friend, but they were very much a what do you call it without sounding terrible? Just a victim. And I could feel that there was something dodgy going on with something and in the marriage, and I could feel that there was something bad going on, and this person was lying to me a lot, but then would
Mm.
be over on my doorstep crying and wanting support and da 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 and all of this. And several times I gave the opportunity to ask, hey, is this are you sure? Is there something you want to, tell me? And there was
Mm.
lies, lies, lies. And then it came out and it's like, I saw it all along. I knew. But
Mm.
that sort of taught me that then what that friendship, it took away so much of my
Yeah.
time with my family. I'd given so much. I was worried about them. I was calling them to check they're okay. But deep in me, I knew that this person was kind of using me to
Mm.
be their sort of vent, and
Mm.
not being honest, and not
Mm.
being, and wanting all my advice or this
Mm.
and that. And it was just it was a real wake up. It taught me boundaries, like then working with you and the people pleasing stuff, like wanting to be a good friend and this and that. But I
Mm.
gave myself away. I lost myself.
Mm. And that's when
um
burnout happens, right? When we're just
oh
constantly over giving,
yeah,
whether it's at work to other people, all of
yeah,
that,
looking
right?
after everyone else.
Yeah, and not taking care of ourselves, not paying attention to how much energy we've got in the tank and where we're wanting to spend it. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
unreal.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, in terms of dopamine, like we've talked quite a lot about dopamine
Mm,
seeking and just dopamine in general. I'm so
yes.
curious to hear, like, what has, dopamine seeking or perhaps even self-medication, like, what does that
Mm,
look be like for you in the past
yeah.
or,
Yeah,
yeah,
right. Sorry, mum. So this is
sorry, mum.
I could be very judged for this, but yeah, I was self-medicating with marijuana. Like I was
Mm,
smoking pretty much every day to
yeah,
function.
yeah.
For recent, like probably the last, God, I can't, it was probably a couple of years
And what
almost.
did what did that do for you? Like when you smoked that, did that help to calm you or take your dial your anxiety back? What was it? What was it
Did
doing?
Yeah, did several things, and that's the. And I remember when I didn't know, and I know now that it is sometimes a go-to for people with ADHD, which I had no idea, because I always felt it was weird that I can have that and that I can actually function a bit better, or I
Yeah,
can do shit and get it
yeah,
done. And I was like,
yeah.
right, okay, I'm going to do this now. And I don't know, like, I think we worked that out in one session when we were talking about the dopamine and realized, and I think it's the sort of thing with coaching as well. I love your style that you ask the questions in a way that then you kind of come to the conclusion or work it out yourself. Like I
Mm.
said to you, I remember at the end of one session, it was another kind of penny drop moment where I was like, God, I think I might be self-medicating with, the weed. And you were like, yeah, maybe. And
Yeah,
and
maybe.
yeah,
Yeah,
and it was just like, I think what it did is it slowed my thoughts down to be able to actually focus on
yeah,
a thought, which
yeah,
then I found confusing why a stimulant works, but I understand now how that works with the,
yeah,
making the things talk properly in the brain. I think that was almost what it was doing for me, but I think it was also just, it was getting out of my head. Like it was so
yeah,
busy in there. And I think it
yeah,
allowed me to focus. It allowed me to, but then I would have the things I was like, oh, I feel like a bad mother that I'm having to do this. And it's not like I was like stoned out of my tree or anything. It's literally like just, I'd have a couple of puffs and I would be like, okay, right, I
okay,
can
what do I need to
function.
do? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I'd do a job and I'd be in the zone, and I couldn't do that without it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I realized, I was like, that's not a, like, I don't want to have something like that. Like, and I knew and I think people do it with alcohol, and that's the thing. It's like
Mm.
alcohol's so much more accepted though, and everything. So it's sort of, people, I know my friends were like, oh wow, you do that every night or this or that. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah,
And now it's at a point, like, not gonna lie, I still don't mind it here and there, but it's a social thing.
yeah,
It's something, it's for me if it's, on a weekend or whatever. And
mm,
it's more medicinal than the
yeah,
actual. before where I was relying on it. And I think
Yeah.
addiction is, now I've learned, and especially when I look back at all my history growing up and at uni and all of that, and binging on alcohol and this and that, it was the dopamine seeking.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I realized that now. And once I knew that that's what I was doing, I was able to then change it. And
Mm.
the crazy thing is that now that I have started the right medication for me, I get to the end of the day and I'm not even thinking about having a glass of wine or a smoke.
Mm.
Like, and that to me, like, I've got goosebumps saying that, because
Mm.
it's so freeing to not be like reliant on something like that, where you feel you're sort of what people think of you, and like feeling like I'm a bad mom or this or that. Not that I was, like, I was doing my best and now it's getting me through, and I was still, I was doing that, and it allowed me to function. So I
Mhm.
don't have any like judgment on myself around that. And I feel
Mm.
like it was a lot safer than doing other things and
Mm.
that. But it was definitely a great example of how, yeah, that was my way of coping. That was my
Yeah.
way of fitting in,
That
of
was your
functioning.
yeah, self-medication to be able
Yeah.
to function at your best sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And able to like
Yeah.
get my words out. Like, that's the funny thing doing this podcast now. I often thought, listening to people talk on podcasts, I was like, I'd have to be, I'd have to have a smoke before I went on a podcast to be able to get my words out. And I
Yeah.
haven't done that today. And like, no.
Woohoo!
But I thought that's what it would have took for me to be able to do
Mm.
that. Wow, how can these people actually get their words out? Like, how
Mm.
are they relaxed enough to be able to let the thoughts turn into words?
Yeah.
Like, that has been something I've struggled with so much. Like, looking back at working in marketing and like speaking, like normal people stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
what, yeah, game changer.
Tell me, what is your what does dopamine look like for you now? Do you do anything different? Do you get it from
Yeah,
different
yeah.
sources?
Absolutely. I know for me back in the day as well, like, I always used my yoga to get my dopamine. Like, I
Mm.
realized that was something that's how I found
Yeah.
yoga, and that when I was in a really bad place in my life. And I remember just going into that room, and it was something, because it was so hard and challenging. And, initially I'd go in there just to like be brutal on myself and go hard in postures. And then I learned to sort of calm down and soften. And I think it was the dopamine, but it was something that would drive me back. And now I've sort of found recently ice baths and the
Oh,
hot sort,
nice.
the contrast therapy.
Yeah. As
And
in
initially,
going from the ice bath to the sauna
yeah,
back to the
yeah,
ice.
yeah. And you do like 3 rounds, and it's up to you,
Mm.
how long you go. And of course, when I found it, I was like going 5 times a week, and I was like, this isn't like cocaine. It's not addictive at all. And then suddenly I was like every day going. And anyway, so then I was like, did the research. My friend's like, yeah, 3 a week's good. So I've spaced it out. I'm doing it regularly, and it's to the point now I can feel like crave it if I don't go. And I'm like, how I feel afterwards is just like, oh, you get this like invigoration, and you feel all flushed, and it's just I think internally it moves everything
Yeah.
around. But the dopamine, I know I get it from that. I do
Yeah.
yeah, my yoga, exercise. I have to do that as soon as my exercise goes during the week, which it did last
Mm.
week. I've been working on my business. I feel my mood change. It's so important, exercise.
And
So
it's
that's a
so good to
biggie.
be aware of that, right? Like,
Mm,
I'm the same. Like, anytime my exercise gets moved out because of something else, like,
yes.
I'm like irritable. I'm more
Yeah.
irritable. Like, it's harder for me to regulate my emotions. Like, I'm
Yeah.
just, that on edge kind
Mm.
of
Feel a
feeling.
bit itchy
And
almost,
yeah,
and just
it's
like,
like
and yeah.
itchy skin, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm,
absolutely.
mm,
Yeah, for sure. They're the goodies, and obviously like sleep's important. But no, I from my animals. I love my animals, and
mm.
I think like it's hard because I'm in Auckland now, and I grew up on a farm. And I'm such a farm girl at heart, and yeah, and I had some foster kittens a while ago, and just sitting down with them, I'm talking about it one day, like dopamine and you and your cats and things and things. And I
Yeah.
remember I just sit down. Sometimes it would be 15 minutes or 10 minutes just playing with them. And it was an instant lift. Like, I
Oh,
feel,
huge.
ah, it was something good. It was like a
Yeah.
good hit. And
And it's one of
yeah.
those like lifts where you go away, like you feel good and you go away still feeling good and you continue feeling
Yeah.
good for a little while. Like it's not
Mm,
like, so many of the things that like
the
dopamine,
instant hits.
like the instant hits, like, scrolling on our phone and looking at
Mm,
social
mm,
media, which, as soon as we stop, as soon as we make the decision to stop, even
mm,
before we hop off, like we start to drop.
yeah.
Right? Like it's the difference. And I think that you kind of have a good understanding of that difference now. and
Yeah.
you're quite deliberate in the sources, like, and having a variety of
Mm.
sources, which is cool.
Yeah. And I think as well, it's really important, like the dopamine stuff, when I think that was a biggie that learned through coaching, which I'd never thought about it, is when you got me to track my cycle like that
Mm,
week before and your period. And I
yeah.
was like, wow, I think because we don't look at time and we're quite blind to sort of times and things, I'd never sort of looked at my patterns that week before. And I was like, it almost is you can head into burnout then because you end up just going on another
Yes.
level. And
Yeah.
you end up pushing yourself too far on this and that, or then the people pleasing might sneak in, or your boundaries might get a bit looser, and
Mm-hmm.
you don't check in with yourself. So I think that's a biggie of being like, right, what do I need now that's going to increase that dopamine back up because I can feel I'm crashing. So it might
Yeah.
be like, look, sorry, I'm going to have to cancel catching up with you tomorrow with for a
Yeah.
friend, and they get it, like your good friends get it, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So that's a good dopamine one as well. Like when you know you're going to kind of almost crash your dopamine if you go and do something, go and have
Yeah.
those drinks with a
Yeah.
friend. You
You
know
know,
you're going
if
to suffer.
you're gonna spend more than you've got in the tank, sort
Yes,
of thing. Like,
yes,
it's not worth it, right? Like, it's like, hang on, I can see that that's what's going to happen. I'm just going to button off. I so
yeah.
agree with you when you talk about like tracking your cycle. Like,
Mm,
I literally just right
put a
before we
dot.
got on this, right before, right, I went and drew my little red dots because they arrived
Yeah,
recently. So I went and drew them on
funny.
my calendar so that I can see them visually. But
Mm,
it's just knowing, actually, hang on, that's why I was so irritable last week, or why I didn't have as much energy, or why I
oh
did
yeah.
get closer to burnout, because effectively, like, my tank had less in it in that week
Mm,
before, right? Like, it was just everything was more
yeah.
sluggish and slow and all the things. But
Mm.
having the awareness of that, I think, is just so helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, like last week it was for me, and just yeah, the cheese absolutely slid off the cracker for a few days there, where it was
I
just
love how you
like,
say that. Wait a minute. Everyone has to hear it. The cheese slid off the cracker.
yeah. But and then like even my friend messages me sometimes now. She's like, I can see your cheese is slippery, meaning like you're sliding, and and I could feel it, and it's the things like you start feeling a bit shitty, a bit little snappy back to poor old Johnny, and
Yeah.
um, and just
Yeah.
everyone's that it's just you need to when you recognize those things, then you can like tone it. You can do what you need to do for everyone
Yes.
else's sake as well, not
Yeah.
just
For
yours.
yourself and everyone else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's yeah, that's about been a big learning, that one, I reckon. And
Yeah.
that's what you talk about is that dopamine is the tank. The
Yeah.
analogies you give, I think, in your things really help understand. And same in your podcast. I remember that's I think why I reached out to you. I was like, I understand her when she talks. Like your analogies you give and the way you explain things is like get it makes sense. And
Yeah.
sometimes I listen to people, I'm like, oh, I'm trying to work out what you mean, and does it mean this and that? But that's the
Yeah.
key thing why you're great at what you do. It's yeah. Mm.
Thank you. And I think it's really helpful. Like, we're generally visual learners, so I like to be able to like give, like, you'll know I use the whiteboard a lot, right? And I'm drawing
Yeah.
pictures and squiggling all
Mm.
over it. But I like to be able to give those visual pictures because I find that so helpful. If I can kind of picture my energy in a tank or my dopamine in a tank, like, I can,
Mm.
you know, kind of visualize what's happening. I find that just so much easier to work with when we have
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
mental picture we
absolutely.
can associate. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. We've talked about like quite a few different tools really that you
Mm.
you use, but are there any others that you can think of, any tools or strategies that you do
Yeah.
to manage your ADHD and to thrive?
Yeah, I mean your ones, a lot of tools that you've given me, I like to use. Is it the Niku one?
Oh,
The
yes. Yep.
novel and
Novel, interesting,
interesting,
challenging, urgent.
challenging.
Yep.
Yes, that. I find that really good. That helps me sort of get, I notice that because one of my things when I came to you was the whole time management, oh, pardon me, the time management and focusing to complete tasks and see it through and things like that. And so that's a good
Yeah.
one for me if I'm like, right, the 5 minute timer thing, or what do I do to make it a bit more competitive with myself to get it done? Like,
Mhm.
all right, you've got to do it by this, da da da. And it's sort of getting your brain on board sometimes. So I
Yeah.
find that tool really works well for me. And then, of course, when the other good one I spoke about before that I love from your models that you do with the acronyms, where you do the brain dump, because that happens a lot for me, is that overwhelm, the thoughts, everything, da 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 da. And then it's like, oh God, I've got this on, this on, this on, this on. And we tend to kind of over not over exaggerate, but it's what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not going to find it,
It's
but
like
you know what
we're like kind of like marinating in our own
yeah,
crap,
yeah.
really, and we can't see a way out of it because we're just marinating in it.
Yeah, we just end up thinking about all the shit we need to do, and then it gets bigger and bigger because we actually
Yeah,
don't do anything.
yeah,
So then that doing that brain dump thing that you say to do, we just write it all down. Like, what is it? And then you can kind of go back and look and be like, okay, here's the things I need to. I'm going to start here. Or the one I like that you gave me was, what do I want to do from my list? Like not what
yeah.
the one,
Yeah.
and then it's
Yeah.
like,
Because that's
and
when
then
you get your dopamine. It's like, hang on,
yeah,
you've got given me this list of 10 things. What's one thing you just want to do?
yeah, yeah. Or what's the
Right?
one you feel most like on body?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an easy
Yeah.
one. And then you do it. And then what happens is it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to
Yeah.
do this now.
Yeah.
And then next thing, it's like you've got out of your head and
Mm-hmm.
you're back in action. You're folding the washing. You're going to the supermarket and getting the milk. Like the amount of times Johnny comes home, he's like, oh, there's no milk. And I'm just like, how do I forget things like that? But it's like now then you're doing you're ahead. You're doing the normal people things, going to the supermarket, getting it's
Yeah.
all the things you put off because
Yeah.
things get hectic in your head, and then you end
Yeah.
up
And those
slipping up
little
on all the
notes.
little stuff.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Mhm.
And when you're too much in your head as well, like that's when all of those little things can easily go out the window,
Oh,
like the milk,
yeah,
right? Or
yeah.
the,
Toilet
whatever it
paper.
is, the toilet paper. Yeah, that's an important one, that one. um, but they can go out the window when you're stuck in your head thinking about the same things over and over
Yes.
again from all the different angles. It's like, hang on, just
Mm,
pour it out of your head. Just pour it out.
mm,
Right. Now you've got some space. What do you want
yes.
to stick back in?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. It's like a
Yeah.
declutterer. It's like sieving
Yeah.
through the shit
Yeah.
basically in your head.
Declutter the
But
brain. Yeah.
yeah, no, it's good. It's been all those sorts of tools.
Mm.
But what I forgot what the question was now.
It's okay. You nailed it. Don't even worry.
Oh,
I do want to tell everyone about what you're doing. Like if you're happy to share because you are
mm,
doing something incredible and I'm just so excited for you. So can you tell everybody what is your
mm.
business? Like you alluded to having a business and you I think you called it like a little side business or something and I was like, "Come on.
Yeah,
Not
well, it's
little."
well, it's basically
It's
just. I mean,
awesome. It's
well,
huge.
yeah, it's been. I guess it started with baby food, baby smoothies when I had Bobby, and I guess this is the ADHD brain. I am always thinking of business ideas. What about this? What about this? And that's, I think, one of the positives about being ADHD is
Mm-hmm.
our
The
ideas are out
ideas.
the box,
Yeah.
and that's what you kind of need, I think, to be
Mm-hmm.
to create something or to
Mm-hmm.
stand out in a market where it's cluttered.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, my product started with baby pouch smoothies, and the idea is they were these little frozen portions, and you would put them into a silicon feeder. And the whole idea was it replaces the supermarket pouches. It's good for the environment, easy to clean pouches, all good stuff, no sugars in them. Anyway, I spent a lot of time just like going down various rabbit holes of like, as we do research and like, what about this pouch? What about this? Da, 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 constantly changing things. I might bring it back one day because it is actually really
Yeah, I
good.
was
But
going to say it sounds like a brilliant product, but
yeah, if we
I
have
love the
another
other one a
baby,
bit
I'll bring it
more.
back because I'll have to be in the right mood. And I
Yeah.
think by the time I'd made all these changes, I was like, I'm fucking done talking about baby food. Like I was like, I don't have a baby anymore. What I don't want to talk about baby food. And
Yeah.
I'd go to the markets and I remember, oh, it was such shit times. I remember Johnny would sometimes pick me up. And I think the last one I did was before I flew out for my surgery to get my implants out. I went to Thailand by myself and got them out. And he picked me up and I was like crying in the car park in the car. And I was just like, yeah, it was just a shit, hardly sold anything. And I remember the moment where there was this mum and she walked, I've gone off on a tangent, but anyway, it's a cool story. There was a mum and I could see her and I was sitting at my stand and I could see she looked over, she had a pram and she looked and she was like, baby food. And she did exactly what I would have done. I've been like, fuck, I'm not talking about that on Saturday. And she pushed the troller, kept going. Whereas
Wow.
cocktails, that's what I want to talk about on Saturday when I'm
Oh
at the
yeah.
markets and I've got a baby. Be like, yeah, passion fruit marg,
Cocktails.
please.
I'm in.
Yeah, but baby food, no. So it morphed when I was in Thailand and I had this idea. I'd done all this work and I changed it so much. It'd probably been a good year and a half. And suddenly I was like drinking cocktails and I'm like, I could turn this easy into cocktails. I've worked in a bar. I always love making cocktails for people. I love having parties. I love hosting. I was like, I need to change it into cocktails. So then I came back and did, created the same thing, branded it differently, kept it in the frozen portions. But then
Mm.
I still felt it wasn't quite right. I named it a bit fancy. And then I ended up feeling like it was a bit shit and a bit too hard to say and the rest of it. And the portions were an issue. But anyway, long story short, never, was that
Never.
during COVID, oh, not COVID, but I had COVID, I can't even remember, who cares how long ago it was, a few months. And you know those little bags you get, the waste bags that you're meant to put the thing in?
Oh, like, okay, hang on a minute. So that's right, because you got COVID and it's the little bag, like when you do your self-test, like you
Yes,
self-test
you're meant
COVID,
to
and
put
then
it in the bag.
you put all of the rubbish bits that you've
You're
used
meant
to
to,
do the
yeah.
tester, you put them in this little sealed bag to get rid
Yeah,
of
I
them,
never do
right?
that. I just chuck them
Yeah,
in the
no.
bin.
I keep the
Yeah.
bags though, because they're
Yes,
useful.
so do I. Yes,
Right.
funny. And so those bags, I was there one night, and it was when we'd had a session, and I was sort of going through, I think, an ADHD thing we do with the whole business thing. And I remember it, and it was like, stick to what you're doing. Your product is good. And you gave me this thing in the week, and every day I needed to write, why is your product good? Name all the reasons and do it. And it
Mm,
kind of
mm,
changed my mindset rather than being like, oh shit, it's not selling. It needs to be this, it needs to be that. I was
mm,
constantly like, because I wasn't confident, not getting myself out there, not backing myself, I was just constantly focused on trying to make this product better, this and that, da 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 da. And you were like, just stay in your lane. Like, you have a
mm.
good product. As soon as you try and do what everyone else is
And
doing,
everyone
same
was
as
saying
everyone
to
else.
you, we love this stuff,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Like everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've now, what happened back to the bag is I was there one night and I was like, I wonder how many cocktails you can fit in this little bag. You could fit 4. And I was like, this is perfect because the whole issue with them being in portions is the whole delivery and logistics. If they
Yeah.
defrosted or whatever, you lose the whole portion control thing. And I'm like, this is perfect. If they defrost, there's still food, so people can chuck them back in the
Yeah.
freezer. And then I was like, oh my God, cocktails in a bag, baggy cocktails, bit tongue in cheek, but
Baggy. But
yeah, so
so good.
baggy.
I freaking love the name,
Yeah.
Baggy
And it
Cocktails.
baggy. That's how Johnny says it. It's got the line that
Baggy.
comes out the top, baggy.
Yeah.
So that I've rebranded in the space of I don't know how long and just been down. And that's the other thing, hyper focus. That's another benefit of ADHD. So I've turned this whole brand thing around, rebrand, cocktails are made. I'm ready to go like next week.
Mm.
So and
Oh,
it's
wow.
been
You've
like a
turned it
probably,
around so
I know.
fast.
And it's
Yeah.
because I've done it like what I've rebranded. This is my 3rd time. This is it. If it doesn't work
Yeah.
after this, bye. It's not, I'm
But
not doing it again. But no, and now it finally is. Like I don't
yeah.
want to jinx it, but I've got
You
meetings set up with,
actually, yeah, you've got
yeah.
some pretty incredible
Yeah.
things on the go. I'm not going to
I
say
don't
what
know.
they are, but you've got
I'm
some
feeling it, but don't want to
amazing
count my
meetings
chickens,
lined
you know?
up. You've got some incredible connections. Like you're just really putting yourself out there though. Like you are
Yeah.
really like,
I'm confident now though. That's the
yeah, you're
difference. And do
confident.
you know what?
Yeah.
That not, not to blow your horn here, but it's all thanks. Like I am so stoked I've met you and like you're my friend now. Like I'm so happy that we've met. And I honestly like I've said to John how many times like this has been life changing for me doing this coaching. And I mean that. And it's
Thank
like
you.
you're such an amazing person and the things I've learned about myself and how to do it, like I feel now also why like that a bit fancy could have worked, but
Mm,
I myself didn't have the confidence. I didn't back myself. I
mm,
couldn't talk to people and meet it like
mm,
I would be it's learning all these tools and getting my brain working properly, knowing how to function. I'm actually achieving more. I've cut back less,
mm.
doing more. I was trying to do all the things. I was getting burnt out, and I'm actually learnt now. What I said to Johnny the other day is I've learnt to use my time better,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I was doing so much more before,
Yeah. You've
and I
got real
achieved.
good at saying no, especially to
Yeah,
things that you didn't really want to be doing or weren't lighting
yeah,
you up. Like
yeah.
they
Or
felt
then it would
maybe
take
more
away from
like,
my
yeah,
time, my
it
business, or
was. It was taken away
just
from
everything.
you. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
no, it's been that I feel like I can finally push it now, and I'm ready to go for it.
So
I've got a good feeling. It feels different. Mm.
yeah, I just so everybody knows because
Oh yeah, so they're frozen cocktails.
I've tried most of the flavors and I'm just like obsessed with them. But they
Mm.
are frozen cocktails and you add your own alcohol. So you can actually
Yeah.
make non-alcoholic cocktails with them.
Mm.
You add your own alcohol. Like for example, I'll like add some vodka. My partner, he likes to put gin in his. He loves them. His
Mm.
favorite's the coconut one.
Oh
Is it
yeah,
the
that's
coconut
everyone's favorite.
mug?
Coke and passion fruit so far
Yeah,
is
yeah,
everyone.
yeah.
They're the OGs. They're coming back.
Yeah,
Mm.
they're so delicious.
Yeah.
But even like
And
you
they've
know
got
what
no
I love?
sugars, and they're
Yeah,
all
that's
real ingredients like passion fruit pulp.
yeah,
It's real. It's not syrups. Yeah. So they
that's what
taste.
I love though, is they taste real. They don't taste
Mm.
artificial because I hate the artificial thing. They taste
Yeah.
real. They've got no sugars. But also like as somebody who has like myself used alcohol in the past like too
Mm.
much to try and self-medicate or numb my emotions, what have you, I love having this beautiful option for a non-alcoholic drink. I use them like for both alcoholic and non-alcoholic, and I am obsessed with them. So I just want to put that out there. Like people should
Oh,
go have a look because I'm a huge fan. And
yeah, nah,
yeah,
pretty
I
good,
think what
aren't
you're
they?
doing is pretty awesome. But it's also another display of like ADHD. Like we are so entrepreneurial. We think outside the box. We are creative. And you
Mm,
have, you said it started with baby food, right? And now we've gone
mm,
from baby food to cocktails. Those are two very different things, but
yeah.
like there are a lot of similarities, right? But it's it's
Mm,
just so awesome to see that. And you've brought your vision to life, which I
yeah.
love.
I think half the time when we do have ADHDs, we have a lot of the visions, but then we don't know how to follow through and do it.
Yes.
But then once you
Yes.
finally know how to work your brain, you learn about yourself. You learn, it's just an absolute like it feels like a light switch has been turned on, and I can, you finally I think you can channel the energy of your thoughts
Mm,
in a productive way. When before it's just all up here and it stays up here because you don't have the confidence to get it out as well. You
yeah.
think, no, it's dumb. I'm dumb. This isn't
Yeah.
working. Like I think that's the negative self-talk I think is a biggie. Like you
Yeah.
stop doing that. You only tell yourself you're a dumbass like once when you stick 60 labels on the wrong packs, which I did last week and had to soak them off for like 6 hours. And normally I'd be like, oh
Yeah.
my God, why? And now I just know, yes, I do stuff
Yeah.
like that,
I do stuff
especially
like
when I'm,
this.
yeah,
This makes
and
for a great story later, though. Don't you
it
worry. That's
does.
always what I
Oh,
tell myself when I make my coffee
mm,
shot go onto the kitchen bench instead of into my cup. I'm
yeah.
like, this will be a story for the
Mm,
podcast, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
Funny.
I love it so much. All right, tell people like because I think they should come and try your cocktails, but I'm
Oh,
probably
thanks.
biased. They're so good. But tell people how can they like find you, and I can link to this if they do
Yeah.
want to come and check out what you're doing. And also
Okay, cool.
another thing I
Yeah,
want to
so my
say, hang on,
oh
before
yeah,
you do that
sorry.
though, another thing I want to say is you have been so beautifully transparent in your ADHD journey, not just with ADHD, like you talked about having breast implants out and like,
Mm, I've
breast
wanted to
implant
always share it
illness.
more. Mm,
Yeah. And I think you have like been so brave and just so authentic in sharing those sorts of things. So if you're comfortable, like I would love people to, know
yeah,
where they could follow you for that journey as well
absolutely.
as connect with your business.
Because
So
that is something we talked about in coaching. Is that
mm,
sorry, I'm probably going on over time now, but it was
okay.
that I think that was something I always said to you is some of the values I know about myself that I learned is that I am what we said before, an open book. I'm all about sharing
Mm,
experiences, good and bad, and I think that also makes me very non-judgment and empathetic towards
yeah.
people, and
Yeah.
I don't judge. Like I've got friends at the moment in all sorts of situations, and and I get them, and then I can still see
Mm,
past that and at the deeper level. But where was I going with that? Oh yeah, the whole. I remember one of our things was is that I really feel like in me a purpose for my life, and what I feel my purpose is to help people. I've always felt
mm,
that. I think that's why I've got into yoga and plays. I love seeing people get something good, and I love sharing information. I think knowledge is power, and I think it can help
mm,
people. And I remember saying to you, like, I'd love to be able to. I wanted to share my journey of like my mental health, I guess, and my breast implant stuff on social media because it's like I know that it can help people. Like I've had
yeah.
people messaging me about where did you get them out and that who have heard
Mm,
about me talking about it through friends. And I'm
mm,
like, I should, but it was always those things of feeling like the RSD of being like,
mm,
I'm scared to put myself out there because people might think I'm doing it for attention, or people might think that my values aren't like that, I'm not authentic, that I'm doing this for
mm.
to be an influencer and that, which I can't stand all that stuff. Like it's not why I'd want
Yeah,
to do it. It's
that's not you at
purely
all.
that's
Yeah.
like my biggest fear of people thinking that of me. And I
Yeah.
remember we hit that on the nail on the head one
Yeah.
day, and it's like, fuck, who cares? I know why I
Yeah.
want to do it. I know who I am, and
Yeah.
I know it can help people. So I am going to start. Like that's why I've started sort of sharing random, like most of my content's real ugly, and I like it that way. And sharing silly things on Insta that I make, but I do want to start sharing that stuff because it's like my whole history with being diagnosed bipolar and now finding out ADHD. But then a lot of people, and I've had friends say it, it's like, all these women are getting diagnosed now with ADHD, and it's a real kind of shit comment, eh? And it
Yeah.
throws back in your
Yeah.
face. But how I take it now, I'm like, you know what? It doesn't actually matter what you think because I know it's how much it's helped me and changed
Yeah.
my life.
Yeah.
And the people who are jumping on and it's good to share, and we are
Yeah.
seeing it pop up more. And the reason we're seeing it pop up more is because more people are getting diagnosed.
Yeah.
That
And
is the
people
reality.
are
It's
being
not a
brave.
trend.
Yeah. People are
Yeah.
willing to talk about it. Right.
Yeah,
And
it's not a
until it
trend.
becomes something, until it becomes, something that we have
Mm,
embraced, right? I was about to say, it's a brave thing to share. And I think that that's the problem. It doesn't, until it no longer has to feel like a brave thing to talk about
mm,
having ADHD, right? Like
yeah.
that's where we need to step up. And I'm just so
Yeah.
grateful that you're willing to do that
Thank you.
and
Yeah.
share because,
Mm.
yeah.
When I think the other thing we always do, why I haven't shared, is I always think, oh, who cares? Like, people have much worse things in their lives and da da da. And we often do that. We like push
Yeah. We
ourselves.
minimize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just think,
Yeah.
oh, well, if I can help one person, that's enough,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's so I'm kind of like going to lean into that a bit more, as scary as it is.
Yeah.
But even doing, I just think, what the hell? You only live once and you just got to be who you are
Yeah.
and embrace that. And this is who I am. And if I'm too much to you, well, bye. I don't care.
Exactly. You're going to miss
Yeah.
out. You're
Yeah.
just going to miss out. Go find less. That's what I
Yeah,
say. If I'm
exactly.
too
There you
much, go
go.
find less. See ya.
Yeah, yeah. I love it.
So tell us, where can
Oh,
people
sorry.
find you if they want to hang out with you, and if they want to check out your
Okay.
cocktails, where's the best
Yeah.
place for them to
So
go?
Jules Ford on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
God knows I'll probably end up changing that name, who knows? And then the cocktails will be Baggy Cocktails. So BAGEE. So it will be at
Yeah.
Baggy Cocktails
And I'll
or
link to
Baggy.
it in the
Yeah.
show notes too, because I
Yeah.
know there'll be people who want to come and hang out.
And there's also, we do parties. There's a slush machine, a big cocktail machine I do. So hens and stags, all that sort of thing. And yeah,
Yeah.
good times.
Awesome. So cool. I love it. I love what you're doing.
Oh, thanks.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experience of like ADHD coaching, of your ADHD journey, of all the things. Like, I just appreciate you being so open and willing to share all the things. So
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Yeah. That's all
Anything
right. I
else?
hope it helps people and realize,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything you feel like we've missed or that you want to say
Uh,
before we wrap?
no, just yeah, thanks for inviting me to come on. Like it was actually, this is one thing I'll say. This is how my head used to work, is it doesn't so much anymore, but I remember when you asked me to come on the podcast, I was like, oh wow, that's amazing. But also I remember at times, when you encouraged me to do that first post on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, oh, imagine if she actually thinks I am just out there, but this is what she, like da 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 da. And but here you are, you've asked me to be on this. But that shows how much we doubt ourselves.
Yeah.
Is that what people might think of us?
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, you're probably just doing your job and sort of thinking yes, but thinking, oh God, deep down she is a bit out there or a bit much.
No, yeah,
Yeah,
but notice that, right?
funny.
Like, I think now you've gotten so much better at like questioning when your brain like offers you stuff like
Yeah,
that
exactly.
and like leaning into the things that you want to lean into, even if your brain is like doubting you, being like,
Yeah.
no, actually, I like that's something I do want to lean towards.
Mm,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Which I
Cool.
love.
No,
And you are I believe you're the first client to come on the podcast. So
oh,
you are
look at that.
the very first. You're very
Famous.
special. You're
Famous.
famous. I love it.
Oh well,
Oh,
did it. I'll
thank you,
probably
my friend. You did
yeah,
it.
okay. You have a
You've
great
done it.
day and
And
yeah.
you. If you are loving what you're learning here on the podcast, but you still feel like your ADHD is holding you back, I can help. Using evidence-based coaching tools and my own experiences, I'll help you to manage your emotions and feel better, to increase your productivity, grow your self-confidence, and create the life that you were meant for. Visit xenajones.com/thrive and schedule an ADHD support session to get started.